There are places in nature where silence feels heavy, almost unbearable, where the air is too still and the water seems to watch you back. Scandinavia is full of such places, forest ponds that never warm even in summer, rivers that shimmer like liquid glass at dusk, and streams that whisper with a music not quite of this world. In those waters lives a figure few outside the north have heard of. He is called Näcken, sometimes translated as the neck or the water spirit. A violinist of the river, a seducer of souls, a shadow beneath the surface. In the folklore of Scandinavia, the water spirit lures with beauty, but drowns with silence. The stories tell us that the water spirit plays his violin on summer nights. If you heard his music by the river, you would not be able to resist. The melodies were so beautiful, so sorrowful, that people walked straight into the water, entranced, forgetting themselves. Sometimes he appeared as a handsome young man, naked in the stream, his skin glistening like silver under the moonlight. Sometimes he took the form of a child in distress, crying by the water's edge, luring the kind-hearted to lean too close. And sometimes he was nothing but sound, a violin's voice carried on the mist. But in every tale, one thing remained constant. Those who followed him never returned unchanged. To understand the water spirit, we must look deeper than the stories. In older times, water was not only a resource. It was a mystery. Rivers could give life but also take it. Ponds reflected the sky but also swallowed the careless. In many pre-Christian traditions, rivers were thought to be alive, inhabited by spirits that demanded respect, offerings, and even sacrifices. In ancient Scandinavia, people would throw coins, food, or even animals into the water as gifts to the unseen powers within. The water spirit is not just a ghost story. He is the memory of those ancient rites. Archaeologists have confirmed this memory. Bronze weapons, jewelry, and even human remains have been discovered in lakes and bogs across Scandinavia. At Skidmose on the island of Åland, offerings spanning centuries were pulled from the dark waters. These were not metaphors, and the river was truly treated as a god. When Christianity spread across the north, the old gods and spirits were not erased. They were transformed. The thunderer Thor became a devil. The elves became tricksters. And the water spirit, once a force of nature, became in the Christian vision something darker, sinful, and forbidden. Why is he so alluring? Why does his music cut so deep? Because the water spirit embodies a truth we all know. Beauty can be fatal. The things that enchant us most often carry the power to undo us. The Stoics warned against this. They told us that desire is a trap. Seneca wrote that what draws us with sweetness will often poison us in the end. The water spirit song is the metaphor of this danger. To long for the beautiful without restraint is to risk drowning in it. There is another side to the water spirit's power, one that is often whispered but rarely named directly: sexuality. In many stories, he appears not only as a musician but as a naked man, beautiful beyond resistance, glistening in the moonlight. Women were said to fall under his spell, drawn to the dangerous promise of a love that was wild, untamed, and forbidden. Water has always been a symbol of fertility, of passion, of the body's hidden tides. To encounter the water spirit was to be confronted with desire in its rawest form, the longing that overwhelms reason. For the Church, this made him the perfect image of sin, the flesh seducing the soul, dragging it down into shame and ruin. But in psychological terms, the water spirit is not only sin. He is the shadow of Eros itself, the part of our sexuality that frightens us, because it is stronger than our control. His violin is not just music. It is the sound of longing, of temptation, of every hunger that threatens to undo us. But not all stories end in drowning. There are tales of those who sought the water spirit not for pleasure, but for power. Musicians would go to the riverbank at midnight offering a black cat, bread, or drops of their own blood, begging the water spirit to teach them. And sometimes he did. Those who learned music from the water spirit became the most gifted players anyone had ever heard. But there was always a price. Some could never stop playing. Some went mad. Some were condemned to wander forever, their art inseparable from sorrow. This is another truth. Every gift costs something. To touch the divine is also to risk being destroyed by it. Across Europe, the pattern is the same. In Germany, he became the Nix. In the British Isles, the Kelpie. In Slavic lands, the Rusałka. All are masks of the same terror, that beauty in the water conceals death below. One of the darkest legends of the water spirit comes from Hälsingland in Sweden. It is said that one night, the water spirit took up his violin and began to play. The sound was irresistible. People dropped what they were doing and began to dance. At first it was joy, feet stamping, hands clapping, laughter echoing in the night. But the water spirit did not stop. His bow moved faster and the melody became sharper, burning through the air like fire. The dancers could not stop. Their feet would not obey them. They danced until the sun set. They danced until their legs broke. And they kept dancing until at last they collapsed, dead on the ground. That melody is still remembered in Swedish folk tradition. It is called Horgalåten, the tune of Horga, a song forever tied to death and enchantment. This is brutal, even joy can kill. Ecstasy without end becomes destruction. What begins in beauty can end in ruin. Psychologists might call this the death drive, the human tendency to pursue intensity, even if it ends in destruction. The joy of the dance became compulsion, and compulsion became doom. It is not only a tale of Hälsingland. It is a truth about all of us. With the coming of Christianity, the water spirit was given a darker face. No longer only a spirit of water, he became a servant of hell itself. The church warned that his violin was not his own, but an instrument of the devil. To seek music from the water spirit was to strike a bargain with Satan's kingdom. In this vision, the water spirit was not the devil himself, but his underling, a subordinate spirit sent to tempt, deceive, and destroy. His river was no longer just a natural danger. It was a gate to damnation. The lesson was sharpened in the fear. To follow the water spirit's song was not only to drown in this life, but to lose your soul in the next. In the old tales, no one could resist the water spirit. Once you heard his violin, it was already too late. His song was not an invitation, it was a command. And the human heart obeyed. That is the terror of the story, beauty so great that it destroys choice itself. But on a deeper level, the myth carries a warning. You cannot build resistance in the moment of temptation. If you wait until the music begins, you are already lost. The Stoics understood this. They taught that you must prepare your soul before the trial comes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not expect the world to be gentle. Expect yourself to be strong." The water spirit's song is the image of desire that overwhelms. You cannot silence it, you cannot bargain with it. But you can live in such a way that when you pass by the river, you keep your distance. Discipline is not built at the water's edge. It is built long before. If you wait until the song begins, you have already lost. Strength is not built in the hour of temptation. It is built in the silence before. Folklore is never just imagination. It grows from real dangers. In the north, rivers and streams were not gentle. The further north you traveled, the stronger the currents became. The rapids could swallow a person in seconds. A child who slipped on wet stones had no chance against the force of the water. Once you fell, the river decided your fate. That is why parents told stories of the water spirit. Not only to frighten, but to protect. Children might ignore a warning about slippery rocks, but they would not ignore the thought of a spirit waiting below, ready to drag them down. Fear was a shield. The water spirit then was not only myth. He was memory and survival. The river's voice given a name and a face. And he always asks the same thing, one step closer. Just a little deeper, until you forget who you are. The water spirit still plays, and many still drown. When you next walk by still water at dusk, when the air feels heavy and the silence too sharp, listen carefully. If you hear the sound of a violin, remember this, it is not only a story about a spirit in the river. It is a story of your longing, of the temptations that wait in silence. You do not have to silence the music. You only have to learn not to follow it. That is the way of wisdom. To hear the song but remain on the shore. This was the water spirit, the spirit in the water's depths. If you want to follow the other shadows of folklore, from forest spirits to angels of fire, you will find them here on Totum Vox. Subscribe and walk with us deeper into the stories that still wait in the dark.